I think that so often in our daily lives, we have such immense desire for the things that we want that we almost end up blocking those things from just naturally happening in our lives. And when I say that, I really just mean in the sense that we should allow the things that we want to happen. And, I don't mean that in a sense that almost everything that happens, we should kind of just, take it for what it is, then act like it didn't happen. I don't mean that when I say allow it. But when I say allow it, I mean in the sense that I think so often we're so impatient for the things that we want, and we just have so little faith that those things are actually going to happen that we almost end up blocking the things from happening to begin with. I think that it's important that we recognize the only thing that we truly can control is ourselves. And anything outside of us, we can only influence. And a lot of those things outside of us, we can't even influence. So it's really just about having faith in God and having faith that He will control what's outside of us while we control what's inside of us. So if we position ourselves what we can control in the direction of towards what or the direction towards what we want, then we need to have enough faith that God will position the outside and the external world in that same way as well. So we will have the things that we want to have. And when I say that, I don't necessarily mean in the sense that you could just position yourself in any way and anything that you want will be yours, even though I think that's true to a decent extent. But I mean also under the moral guidelines as well, in the sense that you can't position yourself in the sense that, oh, for example, I'm gonna blow up the entire world, and then just because you position yourself that way, that it's actually going to happen. I don't mean in things like that, because I think it's also about having the desires that you want truly aligned with what God wants for you. And I think only when those two things are in agreement is anything that you truly want to happen going to happen. Um, so I'm really just understanding that we just need to allow the things to happen. I think it's about almost having a lot of urgency and a lot of agency when it comes to the things that are internal, but then having a lot of patience for the things that are external, and having faith that, okay, if I position myself in this way, and if I pray about it, and if I truly have faith that it's going to happen, then it's really just about having faith that it will happen eventually if we position ourselves in the right way. Because this saying goes that faith without works is dead, and I think when it says that, it really means in the sense that if we can't just have faith that the external world will align the way that we want it to, we're not doing any internal work ourselves. And so I just think it's important that we just take that into account in our daily lives, and we try to position ourselves internally in the way that we want externally. And when we finally do that, it's just about having enough patience that the external will align with the internal, and that way we'll get what we want. I'm understanding a lot recently almost how impatient human beings can be, and how impatient just, almost our physiology is. And I mean that in the sense, I was thinking about this earlier, but it's almost like if someone told you that everything that you want is behind a door, but you cannot go through that door for a year. But after that year, then you could open it, and then everything that you want will be yours. It's not to say that we're incapable of then staying out of that door for a year, but it's almost in saying that we'd almost struggle to not open that door for the year. And I think that just shows how impatient we are. We're so impatient that not necessarily that we'll fail, but we have the urges to be impatient even when everything that we want is already promised to us. So I just think it's important that we just take that in mind, and it's not necessarily something that we should shy away from, but it's something that we should recognize and something we should flow with, almost in recognizing, okay, I have the urge to open the door, but I recognize that now is not the time for that. So almost being patient throughout that impatience and just allowing the things to happen almost naturally, almost allowing yourself to flow within it. Not necessarily rejecting that impatience, because I think that in rejecting, your worldly urges, we're almost giving energy to it and we're just allowing them to become stronger. But so I don't necessarily mean rejecting, but I mean in the sense that we just allow it to come and we allow it to pass. So not something that we give any energy to at all, almost just recognizing, oh, I feel like opening the door right now, but I know now it's not the time, so I'll just move on and I'll stay in a different headspace, or oh, I'll do something else. So I just think it's so important that we just allow the things that we want to happen. And we almost don't block ourselves from obtaining the things that we want, that we allow it in the sense that we allow the things to just come into our lives, but being patient enough to allow them to come into our lives. The example that I always use is almost with like a bunny or rabbit or something like that. In the sense that if you want a rabbit to come towards you, then it's not something that you chase. It's something that you put out food for and you allow it to come naturally. But even when you put out the food, I think so often we become impatient and then we try to chase it a bit. But that'll just make the bunny run farther away. It's really just about leaving the food out and then just having the patience that, okay, eventually it'll come, but then being okay if it doesn't. And I think that being okay if it doesn't is exactly what allows it to come to begin with. So I'm really starting to understand that we should just allow the things that we want to happen in our lives to happen, and we have enough patience to allow those things to happen in our lives. I have a Bible verse that goes with the topic of this video pretty well. It's taken from Proverbs 3, verse 5 to 6. And it says, "Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lead not unto their own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths." So it's really just about having trust in God, having trust that all the things that you want not only will be yours, but all the things are already yours, and having that gratitude and substantiating that in the present moment. And in doing so, we're almost okay whether or not the bunny comes towards us or not. And from being okay in any situation and being okay whether it does or doesn't come, it then gives us the patience that we need to allow it to actually come into our lives. I hope you took something from this video. This is just, I've alluded to this topic in a few other videos, but I just think that it's really important that I make a whole video kind of dedicated to it, so because I think it's just a really important thing that we recognize in our daily lives. So yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you took something from this video, and have a great day.